Hey folks, welcome to Rooted in Rockford Outdoors, a TV show made by Rockford High School students showing you the beauty of what we have right outside of our door here in Rockford. I'm Pete Johnson, and I'm joined by my good friend Mason Kern. Mason, why don't you tell us about our first story?
Our first story for you today is a steelhead run that takes place here in Rockford. We got the chance to go down and film it and had a good time. Got to experience a little bit of what it's like to try and catch a steelhead and just had a good time with it.
So without further ado, I'm Pete Johnson.
I'm Mason Kern.
Welcome to Rooted in Rockford Outdoors.
Here in the heart of Rockford, an annual opportunity arises. Once a year, steelhead come up the river to get ready to spawn, and their fishermen know that their time is limited. While down by the dam, we got the chance to talk with Trenton Northrope and learn some necessary tips to target these beautiful fish.
I've got my main line. I run braid. You can run pretty much anything. And then float down to a weight with a bead, swivel, and then your leader, bead, hook, and then from that hook you tie on another chunk of line down to another bead. Everybody runs different. I just like half ounces. So this is the Okuma SST. This is really my king rod, but it handles steelhead just fine. It's a 15 to 50 pound. I run 40-pound braid main line, and then the reel's just the Okuma Citrix. They'll catch any fish that swims. The length only matters to an extent. You can get it too long of a rod, but you just want a long enough rod to be able to keep your line off the water so you get the best possible presentation with your float. I started up in Canada and then learned about this place. Spent a year here figuring it out, didn't get anything. And then after last year, I started getting them. I've been steelhead fishing since I was like 5, and I'm still learning it.
Throughout the morning, it was clear that these fish weren't going to come easy.
Dude, I don't know why, but we spend 3 days fishing here, never hooked a fish under that bridge. This river's really hit or miss. You either do really good or not get anything. That's what I've learned.
When the boys were just about to pack it up, Trenton finally hooked onto something big.
It's a chrome fish, though.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty. For learning a river and the learning curve, yeah, that is a pretty good year. I'm happy with how this year went.
A big thank you to Trenton and all of his friends for letting us tag along with them to learn more about these exciting fish. Up next, one of our own members, Pete, wanted to give it a try and see if he could hook into something.
Non più tra i farfalloni amoroso, notte e giorno di torno girano, delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto d'amor. Delle belle turbando al riposo, Narcisetto d'amor.
So I tie I think it's a 6 jam knot, but I'll manipulate the amount of like twist I put in so that when it breaks off, it'll break off at the actual at this knot here, versus here you'd lose all your float and whatnot. If you break it off here, you're only losing the bait and the hook, which is better than losing the whole thing, because it's a nice little $5 difference. I'm going with a solid color because the water's a little bit dirtier than it usually is. If I had a little bit bigger, I'd go a little bigger. Just the 8mm. I got it at Brenner's. It's size 2. Got my Gatsu size 2. The Gamatsus are sticky sharp. I've used them for big smallmouth. I've used them for big largemouth too. And so steelhead, they got the soft mouths on the inside, and it should stick well. I'm trying to keep that bead as far away from the hook as you can while keeping the hooking percentage decent. Oh, stay out of the tree. With the way the current pushes, you're trying to get that bait first, and then the fish are seeing the weights and whatnot. So you're trying to get that clean drift. That line's got to stay upstream, on the upstream side of the float, so that it's all dragging like that. So the fish are seeing that first. Trying to just make it as natural as possible. Keeping that rod tip up so as much line's off the water as you can. Keep that rod tip up there, Mason. That'll help you a little bit. But yeah. That's why some of the reason why you see a lot of those guys go with the longer rods is because they're trying to keep that line off the water. Years ago, I was out here, and we had 7 steelhead in this one hole, right in that hole right there. It was crazy. That was with I was with a bunch of guys who later became steelhead guides though. And now they're guiding up north, but I got history here.
Special thanks again to Trenton and all of the fishermen downtown for letting us experience the fun. Maybe next time Pete will have some better luck. This has been Isaac Galay with Rooted in Rockford. Well, thank you, Mason and Pete. Our next story on Rooted in Rockford is an inspiring story about a blind hunter who is able to do what he loves most despite his disability.
You have your vision for 48 years and then it's gone.
Since the age of 8, Jody Simpson grew up hunting with bows and firearms. However, in 1994, his life forever changed.
I lost the sight in my left eye, and it was due to a virus that affected the retina and caused scar tissue to build up across the cones.
Unfortunately, in 2016, his right eye contracted the same disease.
Because of what happened with my vision, I can tell you when it's light, I can tell you when it's dark.
He thought he was no longer able to do the things he loved.
It made me feel like I was weak. I wasn't the same person anymore.
When Jody realized he could accept help, he communicated with his family.
When he came to the family and said that he was struggling, took it upon me at that point that I wasn't going to let that happen.
Knowing how important hunting was to them, Jody's family reached out for support.
And I found out Jody had lost his eyesight.
We started having conversations about Jody and wanting to hunt, and he just encouraged me to pen a simple letter to the board.
And that letter made all the difference.
And one of the things that he wanted to do is to have the camaraderie and the joy and the excitement of deer hunting with his family members. And I thought, how can we help make that happen again?
With the help of his brother and the Safari Club International, modifications were made so that Jody was able to enjoy the activities he once loved.
It's a simple mount that is attached to the back of a scope, and then your phone, it goes onto the mount, and you can put it on your camera mode, and it'll take a video up on the screen, and then I instruct Jody from there.
I still hold the gun, and he guides me in. He tells me up, down, left, right, 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch.
Down at 8, right at 8, fire.
Something went over me, like I can still do it. Just have to have somebody right there with me, and luckily enough it was my brother. It's a little bit of definitely trust and communication when it comes down to it.
Jody has been probably my best friend.
When the owner of Allen Creek Ranch found out that Jody wanted to drive again, he was determined to make that wish come true.
They had an old plow truck they brought up, and they said I could drive it. One of the gentlemen that works up there, he was in the passenger seat giving directions. I was hanging on to the steering wheel for dear life. But it was fun.
Why are you driving? You
got it figured out?
Jody's story shows how determination and support can help you overcome anything.
Those gobbles sound like they're getting closer. Yeah, they are.
This has been Elise Genter with Beyond the Rock, signing off.
I tell you what, you needed to calm your breathing.
Hi everyone, my name's Maddie Nunn, and I got the special opportunity to head down to the Rogue River with a local science teacher to learn more about how he uses beauty to teach ecology in the classroom.
Last week, we got the chance to tag along with Rockford's very own Mr. Frederickson so he could show us his favorite tradition.
Today we are releasing salmon into the Rogue River. We've been raising them since Thanksgiving, and once they get to about this size, the DNR tells us to release them before May 15, and so we're releasing them below the dam. So the purpose of this is to give students a hands-on, approach to learning with salmon. So we have to learn ecology and biology, and so what better way to learn about ecology than use salmon and their life cycles and the food chains and what they eat. In Michigan, we have a lot of fishermen or anglers that like to catch salmon, so we're kind of doing our part to restock the fish population as long as making an educational activity.
Mr. Fred believes that the best approach to teaching biology and ecology is not in the classroom.
I believe hands-on learning is more beneficial and will stick with students a little bit more, so they get to see the fish grow up as well as learn about them in the classroom. I think it'll make it more of an impact.
It's fun seeing them grow and get much bigger than when they first start out as little eggs.
From like being an egg to being able to be released, why it goes from so many eggs to such little fish.
It takes a lot of time for salmon to grow. I mean, we started these back in the beginning of November.
Here we are in the beginning of May, and the salmon are ready to begin their next cycle of life.
So the salmon will eventually make their way to Lake Michigan, and then once they come up to spawn, they'll actually come back to right around this location or right below the dam, have babies, and then they'll die.
Without further ado, the salmon are finally released into the river.
Would anyone like to dump the buckets, the exciting part?
To the other side of the river.
There you go.
Goodbye, little fishies.
Yeah.
I salute you.
Thank you for joining us for our very first episode of Rooted in Rockford. We had a great time getting to know everybody who helped us film for this week, and we have lots more to come.
It truly has been a pleasure bringing these stories to life for you guys. If you have any ideas, hit us up on Instagram or email us at Rooted in Rockford. Until then, I'm Pete Johnson.
I'm Mason Kern.
Get outdoors, Rockford.